And there is a food fight going on in New York City today. A public hearing began just over an hour ago and under consideration prohibiting city restaurants from serving foods with trans fats and requiring full disclosure of trans fat amounts on menus. So why are trans fats so dangerous, and does the government really need to be involved in all of this? Joining us is Bonnie Minsky. She's a nutritionist and the president of Nutritional Concepts, says the government must get involved to protect consumers. Sam Kazman is general counsel at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, says there's absolutely no need for government involvement. Folks, thanks for being here. Bonnie, let me start with you. Why do you think the government should be involved here, especially when we see companies like KFC stepping forward already and saying they're going to try to get rid of these?
Because not enough companies are stepping forward, and even in New York, they voluntarily recommended that they ban trans fats, and it didn't work. Restaurants will not do this unless they're forced to.
Sam?
Look, first of all, trans fats are not an artificial substance. They're created artificially, but they also occur naturally in milk and meats, and the New York City ban would do nothing to address that. The more important thing to remember is that many of the people who have pushed us into this current food panic of the month are the same folks who 15 years ago got lots of restaurant chains to drop their use of saturated fats and instead increase the use of trans fatty acids. And so the notion that we suddenly discovered a new health threat really is nonsense. The National Institute of Medicine, in its view, does not view trans fats as any different than saturated fats or dietary cholesterol. Okay. And the advice for all three categories is cut back if possible, but don't do anything drastic.
I totally disagree. Trans fat is a man-made, chemically altered fat. And the little bit that's naturally occurring is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a serious public health issue. When I have a cupcake that is...
Let's bring up the photo of the cupcake, actually. You sent us some pictures, and while you're talking about it, we're going to bring up this is a 25-year-old Hostess cupcake.
Oh. And the only thing artificial in it is the trans fat. And when you see that no bacteria, no mold has chosen to feed on this, why should we be feeding on it? And the trans fat issue is something I've been involved in for 25 years. We at that time just called it partially hydrogenated. And the National Academy of Sciences said there is no safe level of trans fats. There is even a safety level for arsenic. There is no safe level of trans fats.
The Institute of Medicine says exactly the same thing about trans fatty acids as it says about dietary cholesterol and saturated fats, namely cut back to the extent possible. I think the only thing that Ms. Minsky's historic muffin demonstrates is you should not have dessert at her house. It does not show anything else whatsoever. And finally, to the extent that some people believe that, yeah, there's something especially bad about trans fatty acids, you don't need a law to get restaurants to tout to that segment of the marketplace.
Well,
we have lots of food places. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have to say again that even the Conservative American Heart Association says that we should not be consuming more than 2 to 2.5 grams a day. One McDonald's large French fry is 8 grams of trans fats. And the reason for the ban is that we have already set a precedent with smoking. But I, as a consumer, can walk into a restaurant and decide whether or not I want to sit there if they still allow smoking.
Folks, this issue isn't going away. We're going to have to cut you off and have you back at some other point. I don't know if we're going to show that muffin again. Bonnie and Sam, thanks for weighing in.
Great.
Well, one thing's also not that is artificial, and that is the white icing thing that goes. I've never seen that bright white, but it is the most surprising moneymaker in college